LBC News.
How do we define modern-day masculinity? Is that old idea of the stoical man who rarely sheds a tear, if ever, really something we need to junk? And how do you deal with your fellow human beings, be they male or female, in an age-appropriate way? Well, let's talk to Jack Irwin, who's author of a book called Man Up, Surviving Modern Masculinity. And he can give us some tips. I hope you can do it quickly, Jack. It's a big subject to deal with. What are the big challenges for menfolk these days, do you think?
I think there is a sense of confusion amongst a lot of men about their place in the world. I think they're hearing kind of from both sides of the spectrum that they either need to be more manly or that they need to be less manly and embrace more feminine ideals. But, in reality, I don't think, the manliness itself is the issue. I think it's how we go about exhibiting these behaviors. You can be as manly as you like, you can have all of those great ideals of masculinity, the strength, the bravery, without any of the negative or what I call toxic masculine ideals, the violence, the emotional suppression. So I think, manliness is at a strange time right now, but it need not be that confusing.
It used to be the case, was it, that the one was tolerated because of the other? You wanted somebody strong and a leader, and therefore, if they were also bad-tempered or even violent, you put up with it. Society's moved on from that, isn't it now? So how do we get to a place where you can do one without the other, without the negativity?
I think it's very possible. I think, a lot of these aspects, they're very much learned behaviors. I think various industries have tolerated, people flying off the handle into fits of rage for a long time when that needn't be the case. And more, we are conscious of the effect that has on people around us. So I think it's a matter of not tolerating these kind of these negative behaviors, but embracing.
Where does toxic masculinity start?
For me, it's when it's causing harm, either to the person who is behaving in that way or to those around them.
Sure. Sorry, I mentioned the sense of the development of the young male.
The development of the young male.
Where does toxic masculinity start? Where's that inculcated into the male?
It begins at a very early age. From when we're toddlers playing with toys, there is an idea that you should be playing with Action Man dolls. You shouldn't be playing with feminine dolls. You should be into cars and trucks, etc. And then all the way up to adulthood, we are kind of constantly told, be a man, don't cry, boys don't cry. And that's something that, it's often said in a relatively throwaway sense, but it does have an impact on us. And over time, we really learn that, expressing emotion is seen as antithetical to masculinity.
And is it not? What's your message to us? Let's be more emotional?
I think we do need to be more readily emotionally available. So, a bit of background on me. The reason I started talking about this was my father's death right before I turned 10 of a heart attack. In the weeks that followed, we found over-the-counter angina medication in a jacket pocket. The post-mortem came back revealing scar tissue on his heart from a previous heart attack. So it was clear that he was aware there was a problem. He never went to see a doctor about it. He never talked to my mum about it. He just kind of kept that to himself because he didn't want to bother anyone. He didn't want to say, oh, I've been having chest pains. He was a very closed-off man emotionally in many ways. And I do believe that if he had been able to open up a bit more, to admit to, something that I think made him feel a sense of weakness, there was a chance that he might not have died as young as he did.
Is that exclusively health issues, though? Because that's another subset of, I suppose, the the male persona, isn't it? Being paranoid about health or just not wanting to talk about negative health things.
No, it's not exclusive to health issues. I mean, certainly not exclusive to physical health issues. Mental health is another huge part of this. And again, I went through periods of depression in my teens and early 20s, and I had a very difficult time talking to anyone about this because I thought, well, I'm a man. I have to just kind of deal with this, get on with it. And it was only when I was able to actually start talking to my friendship group that we kind of built this sense of camaraderie over the fact that we had all been going through mental illness, none of us knowing about the other's struggles. And I realized that, this opening up, this fact that we are now able to have these conversations was profound to all of us. It really started to change how we saw the world and allow us to actually move on from that. And again, on the mental health front, if we look at male suicide figures, men are about 3 times more likely to take their lives than women. So we have to look at why it is that this is the case.
You have an optimistic tone for us, Jack, do you? It sounds like you do in the way you speak. In other words, you can survive modern masculinity.
This is absolutely the case. And I've been working with Bumble on some research that has found that about 3/4 of men have actually began to examine their behavior. They have a clearer understanding of toxic masculinity and of what is and isn't acceptable, particularly in the dating sphere. So I'm very encouraged by these statistics. We hear a lot about toxic masculinity these days. We hear a lot about the negative impact of certain influences. But I think the reality is that most men do want to change. They want to improve their behavior because they've identified that it's beneficial, if to no one else, to themselves.
Jack Irwin, good to talk to you. Thank you very much for being part of our program today.
Thank you so much.
Jack is the author of Man Up, Surviving Modern Masculinity.